begins long before the first energy beam was ever fired toward Earth. For many years, the Galactic Council watched humanity from a distance, quietly observing everything they did. To the Council, humans were unpredictable, fast-growing, and too curious for their own good. They rose from a simple, isolated species to a spacefaring civilization faster than anyone had expected. What troubled the Council most was not humanity's technology, but their attitude. Humans had a habit of doing things that other species considered reckless, pushing machines beyond safe limits, exploring dangerous areas of space, experimenting with strange elements, and creating solutions that seemed impossible to others. This made humanity admirable to some, but deeply unsettling to others. Several council members feared that one day Earth would challenge their authority and break the balance they believed they were protecting. These members began whispering among themselves, turning small concerns into large fears. They did not hate humanity, but they feared losing control. Over time, these fears grew until they overshadowed every peaceful report and every attempt to understand humans better. It was easier for them to imagine danger than to imagine cooperation. And once fear takes hold, it rarely stays small. Eventually, those members influenced the entire council. They insisted that humanity's rise was too fast. They argued that humans did not respect boundaries. They said Earth had become a fire that needed to be controlled before it turned into a wildfire spreading across the stars. The council finally approved a covert operation, something quick, something decisive, something they believed would disable Earth without drawing attention. They wanted to guide humanity back into a safer position, at least in their eyes. But the truth was simple. They wanted humans to stay where they could be watched. The council believed their plan would create no major conflict. They assumed that humanity lacked the means to detect them. They assumed humans were still too inexperienced in space warfare. They assumed Earth would simply surrender or accept whatever damage occurred. All their assumptions came from old files, old observations, and outdated analyses. They had not studied humanity closely for many years. They did not realize Earth had changed. When the Council strike ships left their hidden hangars and began moving toward Earth, the officers inside felt confident. They carried advanced jamming fields, stealth drives, and weapons built to disable cities, not destroy them. They believed they were doing something necessary for the safety of the galaxy. They never considered what would happen if Earth noticed them. They never asked themselves what humanity might do if attacked without warning. It was a decision made in fear, not wisdom. As the fleet approached Earth, their stealth field shimmered like a thin layer of fog around their hulls. From a distance, it almost made them invisible. But humans had built something the Council didn't know about, something Earth had kept secret, ever since they realized they were not alone in the universe. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a shield. It was simply a network of sensors scattered around the planet, in orbit, in deep space, and even hidden inside asteroid belts. The system was designed to identify any foreign object that didn't match natural patterns. It didn't matter how advanced the stealth was. The system read movement, radiation signatures, micro-distortions, and even air shifts caused by large ships entering the solar system. At first, the sensors picked up faint anomalies, tiny ripples, almost unnoticeable, like leaves moving before a coming storm. Earth's monitoring stations flagged the data automatically. Operators stared at the readings, confused at first. It didn't look like normal activity. It didn't match comets or debris. It wasn't a glitch. The patterns repeated. Multiple signatures appeared. Something was approaching. Even then, the operators didn't panic. Humanity had grown used to surprises in space, but they followed procedures. Alerts were sent to higher levels. Experts were woken from sleep. Military satellites were activated. Within minutes, Several global agencies had the same question. What is coming toward Earth? The Council fleet continued forward, unaware that they had already been spotted. Their plan relied on silence. But their silence had now become the first sign of danger. Earth's analysts studied the incoming signatures, and the more they looked, the more their concerns grew. The objects were too large to be natural, and their flight path was direct, straight toward Earth. No communication signals were detected. No identification codes. No friendly messages. Just an unseen force, closing in dot maps, lit up in situation rooms around the planet as experts gathered. Some tried to remain calm. Others felt their stomachs twist. Humans had theories about extraterrestrial life, but seeing unknown ships heading straight for Earth was something no amount of preparation could make comfortable. The first confirmation came from an orbital platform that managed to detect a distorted silhouette behind the enemy's stealth field. The shape was unfamiliar, but unmistakably artificial. That was all Earth needed. After that, every major nation unified instantly. Whatever differences existed between them were forgotten in seconds. Humanity knew when to argue and when to stand together. This was not the time for arguments. The Council fleet still believed they were hidden, but Earth was now watching every move they made. Orders spread across military bases, naval stations, command bunkers, research labs, and secure communication lines. Simulations ran in the background, calculating possible outcomes, while the public slept peacefully, unaware of the danger above their heads. The people in charge prepared for something no generation had experienced before: a coordinated extraterrestrial attack. Earth's leaders didn't know who the intruders were or what they wanted, but they knew one thing clearly. Nobody comes to Earth in secret with a fleet unless they have harmful intentions. Humanity hoped it was a misunderstanding, but they couldn't rely on hope alone. They needed certainty. They needed readiness. They needed to act before it was too late. The Council fleet moved into optimized attack position, aligning their weapons, preparing their disabling strikes. In their minds, they believed the operation would end quickly. One sharp blow, one show of control, and Earth would be forced into compliance. They imagined humans reacting with confusion, fear, and surrender. They believed humanity would simply fall to their knees, overwhelmed by superior technology. But the truth was very different. From the moment Earth detected the first distortion, humanity had made a silent decision. This would not be the day they bowed to anyone. Every expert working through the night felt the same mixture of fear and determination. They didn't want war, but if war was coming, they would not let Earth be struck without fighting back. Humanity had built defenses for a reason. They had developed hidden technologies for a reason. They had studied the stars for a reason. They had survived countless threats on their own planet, and they were ready to face whoever was arriving from beyond the sky. The Council believed they were making the first move. But the truth was, their first move had already awakened something they never expected. A united Earth, alert, prepared, and ready to respond. Earth had seen the strike coming. And that changed everything. Begins at the moment humanity realized the approaching fleet was not stopping. Every new reading confirmed that the unknown ships were continuing their path toward Earth. They moved in perfect formation, with a level of precision that instantly showed they were not natural objects. Earth had many enemies in the past, but none came from outside the atmosphere, and none approached with this kind of silence. There were no warnings, no signals, no requests for dialogue. Just a silent force closing in. In the early hours of morning, when most people were still sleeping, Earth's leadership gathered in secure communication chambers across the planet. These were not rooms filled with panic. They were filled with people who understood the seriousness of the situation. The air inside felt heavy, but there was also determination in every voice. every expression, every breath. They knew this moment was bigger than politics, bigger than borders, bigger than every disagreement humans had carried for generations. For the first time in many years, Earth stood completely unified. The first decision they made was simple but firm. They had to respond together. No country could deal with this alone. No agency had enough information. No military had full access to all the data. So they combined everything: satellite images, orbital scans, deep space readings, classified reports, even ground-level sensors that normally monitored meteor activity. Information that had once been guarded behind years of secrecy was suddenly shared freely, because survival mattered more than pride. As these streams of data merged into one system, a clear picture formed. The objects were definitely ships. They moved with controlled acceleration. Their energy signatures were unfamiliar, but consistent. Their formation was too tight to be anything other than trained fleet movement. There was no doubt left. Someone, somewhere beyond Earth, had sent a military force. Nobody knew why. Nobody knew who. But the threat was real. A message went out to every major center on Earth. Activate the continuity protocol. This was not a public program. It was something humanity had built quietly, preparing for the possibility that one day someone out there might not come in peace. It wasn't created out of fear. It was created out of caution. And now, for the first time since its creation, it was being fully activated. The continuity protocol was not a single system. It was a collection of actions, machines, and defensive layers connected by one goal: protect humanity no matter the situation. It included orbital defense platforms that had been disguised as research satellites. It included underground communication bunkers that were built to withstand massive shocks. It included AI-driven response networks that could detect patterns faster than any human eye. And it included humanity's own fleet, the ships they never showed to the world. The ships they had built in secret projects, slowly but steadily. While the Council fleet believed they were unseen, hundreds of human experts were already watching their approach, estimating their potential weapons, their speed, and their possible strategies. They analyzed everything, from ship shape to movement patterns. Humans might not have been the oldest civilization in the galaxy, but they were incredibly good at understanding danger. More importantly, humans were good at working under pressure. Inside command centers, operators moved quickly but calmly. Engineers tested emergency systems. Pilots were contacted and told to reach launch bays immediately. Even technicians who normally handled simple maintenance tasks were suddenly part of a global effort. Every hand mattered. Every second mattered. The world had changed in just a few hours, and everyone could feel it. The leaders on Earth knew they could not wait for the ships to reach the atmosphere. Waiting could mean destruction. They needed to take control of the situation before the intruders made the first move. Earth had defenses, even advanced ones, but they needed time to prepare, align, test, and coordinate. If the alien fleet launched an attack too soon, the planet might lose precious minutes. So Earth accelerated everything. Orbital defenses, previously hidden behind cloaking systems, powered up silently. Their panels unfolded like metallic wings. Human ships lifted off from secret bases that had been built in mountains, deserts, and deep underwater facilities. Some of these ships were prototypes, some fully operational, but all of them were needed. They did not form one giant fleet. Instead, they spread out into different layers of defense. If the enemy attacked one area, the others would still function. Even civilian experts were brought in. Astronomers, physicists, mathematicians, and engineers all contributed. They calculated angles, checked gravitational distortions, and predicted potential entry points for enemy landing craft. Everyone had a role. Everyone wanted to protect Earth. As hours passed, the sense of unity grew stronger. Humanity had always been known for disagreements, debates, and conflicts. But when a true threat appeared, one that endangered every person equally, those differences vanished almost instantly. People in charge knew that their choices would decide the fate of billions. That pressure would have crushed many civilizations. But humanity had always performed best with their backs against the wall. While preparations continued on Earth, the alien fleet reached a closer point in space. Their stealth field had begun to weaken slightly as they changed formation and entered attack position. This created new sensor echoes. Humans detected these changes immediately. They were now certain that the approaching fleet was preparing for an offensive operation. It wasn't peaceful contact. It wasn't a diplomatic arrival. It was an invasion strategy. This confirmation turned caution into resolve. Earth's leaders sent a signal of global order. Stay alert, stay silent, and prepare to respond. They did not want to trigger panic by broadcasting the danger to the public. Most people still had no idea that a fleet from another world was heading toward their planet. The leaders hoped to protect them from fear, at least until humanity understood how the situation would unfold. In truth, the leaders hoped they could handle the situation without involving civilians at all. Deep inside one of Earth's main command facilities, a meeting took place with every major representative. They discussed whether they should attempt to communicate with the unknown fleet. Some argued it was necessary. Others argued it was dangerous. If the intruders wanted peace, they would have sent a signal already. If they didn't want peace, a message would change nothing. But Earth's instincts were to try every humane option before conflict. Finally, they agreed on one thing: send a simple broadcast. Not a threat. Not a demand. Just a direct question. Identify yourselves. This message was sent into space using powerful transmitters. It was repeated across multiple channels in case the intruders used a different communication format. Earth waited. Minutes passed. Then more minutes. But there was no reply. The alien fleet continued moving, continued preparing, continued adjusting their positions. Silence was their answer. That was the moment humanity knew the incoming force had no intention of talking. With no communication and no explanation, Earth realized it had only one path left: prepare to defend itself. The silence of the intruders was not just disrespectful. It was a clear warning. If they would not speak, then they were coming to act. And if they were coming to act, humanity could not afford hesitation. Earth's orbit became a quiet battlefield long before the first shot was fired. Human ships positioned themselves at key defensive points. Satellites were rearranged to create overlapping protective shields. Ground defenses tested their targeting systems. Every soldier, pilot, and technician waited for orders. They had trained for many scenarios, but none were as intense as this. Even then, Earth held back its fire. Humanity did not want to start a war. They only wanted to protect their home. They knew the alien fleet would make the first move. They knew the first strike would decide everything. And they knew they were ready. Inside the alien command ship, the council officers believed everything was proceeding smoothly. They were confident Earth had not detected them. They believed they had complete control of the situation. They believed humanity was completely unprepared. Their assumptions had not changed since the day they approved the mission. But outside their hidden view, Earth stood united, awake, focused, and waiting. This was no longer a frightened planet. This was a world preparing to defend its people. And the moment the Council made their move, humanity would answer. Earth was done watching. Now it was ready. Begins at the moment when Earth could no longer pretend the approaching fleet might change direction or slow down. Every scan showed the same result. The unknown ships were preparing for something big. Their formation tightened. Their movements became sharper. Their energy readings rose slowly, like a warning hidden behind silence. Humanity did not know what kind of weapons these intruders carried, but the growing power signatures told a clear story. They were getting ready to strike. Inside Earth's main command centers, the atmosphere had shifted. Earlier there had been worry, conversation, plans, calculations. But now there was stillness. People didn't talk unless they had to. The quiet wasn't fear. It was focus. Everyone understood that the next few hours might decide the future of the planet. Earth's unified command gave one shared instruction to every orbiting defense platform, every human ship, and every ground unit. Hold position, stay ready, and do not fire unless absolutely necessary. Humanity didn't want to start the fight. They still hoped the intruders might hesitate, or reveal their intentions, or even open communication. But hope was becoming thinner with every passing minute. The human fleet, though smaller and less advanced than many alien civilizations might imagine, moved with purpose. They arranged themselves in layers across orbital space. Some ships stayed close to Earth, ready to defend the planet directly. Others positioned themselves further out, forming the first line of interception. Drones and unmanned crafts filled the spaces between, acting like floating eyes that reported every single movement the intruders made. Inside one of Earth's deep underground bunkers, analysts studied every new piece of data. Most of them had never imagined they would be working during a real interstellar threat. Some had joined their fields because they loved research or quiet scientific work. But today they were helping save their world. They compared old readings, cross-checked energy patterns, and used everything they knew about physics to understand the enemy's technology. The more they studied, the more they realized one thing. The approaching fleet was confident. Too confident. Their steady movement suggested they believed Earth could not detect them at all. That confidence was a dangerous mistake. The alien fleet finally reached a distance where even the simplest sensors could pick up their presence. It was clear now they were no longer trying to stay hidden. Either they believed stealth was no longer necessary, or they were preparing to reveal themselves in a dramatic way. Some human officers whispered theories. Maybe the intruders wanted to scare humanity into surrendering. Maybe this was their version of a warning. But no matter what the reason, the alien ships moving closer meant one thing. Earth had only moments left before the first action. Earth's leaders sent one final message into space. A last attempt at communication. Unknown fleet approaching Earth. Identify yourselves. State your intentions. The message was repeated several times across different frequencies and formats. Earth waited. A minute passed. Then another. Then another. And still, absolutely nothing came back. Just the silent advance of hundreds of unknown ships. Silence can say more than any spoken threat. Earth's command centers accepted the truth. There would be no peace talk, no negotiation, no introduction. Whatever the intruders wanted, they intended to take it by force. Humanity didn't know if it was resources, territory, or something else entirely, but there was no time to guess. Every second mattered now. The order was given. Activate all defenses. Across orbit, human ships came alive. Engines warmed. Shields adjusted. Weapons powered silently, nothing destructive, but enough to intercept any attack. On the ground, launch facilities prepared emergency craft. Long-range sensors broadcasted constant updates. Even civilian networks were redirected to reduce planetary communication load out through the darkness of space. The alien fleet began its final approach. Their glowing engines stretched like lines of light behind them. Their hulls had an unusual design, sharp angles mixed with smooth curves, as if built by minds that saw beauty and aggression as the same thing. The closer they came, the clearer one thing became. This was no scouting group. It was a military formation. Suddenly, the intruders broke their quiet formation. Ships spread into different attack angles. Some angled downward, as if preparing to dive toward the planet. Others pulled upward, perhaps targeting Earth's satellites or orbital defenses. Their energy spikes began increasing much faster. There was no more pretending, no more waiting. This was the beginning of the strike. Earth moved the moment the intruders made that shift. Human commanders gave a rapid series of orders. Interception lines adjusted. Defensive ships moved into strategic patterns. Some vessels that had been resting in standby mode blasted forward with engines glowing bright. They weren't going to fire first, but they were going to be ready to block anything aimed at Earth. Human ships, although smaller compared to the alien ones, had one major advantage: maneuverability. They accelerated quickly, changed direction easily, and reacted faster than the heavy, rigid alien ships. Humanity had designed them for situations where survival depended on quick decisions. In those moments, Earth's entire fleet began to move like a school of fish tightly coordinated, shifting angles, covering positions, protecting weak spots. The alien fleet noticed the movement. They clearly hadn't expected Earth to detect them this early. For the first time since entering the solar system, one of the alien ships shifted as if hesitating. But the moment was brief. They continued forward, energy still rising at this point. Humanity faced a choice: wait a few seconds longer for confirmation of an attack, or prepare to stop the fleet before they reached the atmosphere. Earth didn't choose either. Instead, they launched a move nobody in the galaxy would have expected, across orbital space. Dozens of small human drones shot forward like streaks of silver. They were fast, silent, and driven by advanced AI systems. These drones were not made for destruction. They were made for distraction and interference. They blurred past the alien ships, forcing them to adjust their formations, forcing them to react. The aliens tried to target the drones, but the machines darted like sparks in the dark. This was humanity's first countermeasure: confuse the enemy, disrupt their timing, and force them to reveal how their weapons behaved. And it worked. The alien fleet reacted immediately. A beam of bright energy shot out from one of their ships, aimed at a drone that had come too close. The beam missed, slicing through empty space. But that single shot told Earth everything they needed to know. The aliens had fired first. They had taken the first action. Earth now had full justification defensively and morally to respond. Earth's interception units moved instantly. Some ships fired decoys to absorb incoming beams. Others created temporary shield barriers. A few human ships advanced directly toward the approaching fleet, their engines blazing, ready to block any strike aimed at the planet. The aliens tried to reorganize, but humanity's unpredictable tactics threw them off. Humans didn't move like any other species the Council had studied. They didn't hold rigid formations. They didn't follow predictable patterns. Instead, they adapted on the spot, reacting faster than any alien strategist had expected. A Council fleet realized too late that their silent approach had failed. Earth was not confused. Earth was not scared. Earth was prepared. Inside Earth's main command chamber, leaders and officers watched the unfolding scene on massive screens. Their expressions were tense, but there was no panic. There was only a steady determination in their eyes. They had trained for this. They had built systems for this. And now those systems were performing exactly as they needed to. Earth's counterattack officially began the moment the alien fleet fired its first real strike. Human ships launched coordinated defensive blasts, not to destroy, but to push the intruders back. They aimed for structural weak points, propulsion systems, and critical joints. Their goal was not annihilation, it was control. They wanted to disable as many ships as possible before the intruders reached Earth's orbit. What shocked the alien Fleet most was not the power of humanity's response. It was the precision. The aliens had expected chaos. They had expected confusion. Instead, they found themselves facing a planet that moved with intelligence, unity, and unstoppable resolve. Even in those first moments, it was clear humanity had no intention of losing. Humanity had no intention of surrendering. Humanity would protect Earth at any cost. And as the first clash of fleets shook the silent darkness of space, one truth became undeniable to everyone watching. On both sides, the Council had started something they could no longer control. Earth had responded, and the counterattack had only just begun. Begins at the exact moment the alien fleet realized something had gone terribly wrong. They had expected a frightened world, a confused population, and a slow or disorganized response. Instead, they found themselves facing a planet that reacted with precision, unity, and speed that none of their simulations had predicted. Every move the human fleet made seemed designed to corner them, disrupt them, or force them into mistakes before they could even attempt their main attack. Inside the lead alien command ship, confusion spread like a quiet wave. Officers studied their screens, trying to understand how Earth had detected them so early. Their hidden approach was supposed to be perfect. Their stealth field had been tested against dozens of species and had never once failed. Yet here, near a small planet on the edge of the galaxy, everything was falling apart. The Council officers exchanged uncertain looks. Their mission had started with confidence. Now, for the first time, they felt doubt. They had expected humans to panic, but instead, human ships moved with sharp coordination. Instead of scrambling helplessly, Earth's defenses seemed to rise, as if they had trained for this exact moment. That was the first sign that the Council had misunderstood humanity. Wow. The alien officers tried to regain control of the situation. Earth's leadership studied the enemy reactions closely. In every command center on the planet, analysts paid attention to how the intruders moved, how quickly they adjusted, and which ships responded fastest. By doing this, Earth learned something important. The alien fleet was not used to being challenged. Their movements lacked the adaptability that humans displayed so naturally. They reacted slowly, almost stiffly, as if they expected the battle to follow a neat plan. But humanity had never fought neatly. Humans fought with instinct and improvisation. They always had, across multiple screens. Live footage and sensor readings showed the alien fleet beginning to fall out of perfect formation. It wasn't a collapse, just small shifts. But those small shifts meant everything. They showed hesitation. They showed surprise. And they showed fear. Even if the intruders wouldn't admit it, the Council representatives back at their home station were watching the situation through long-distance relays. When they noticed the first cracks forming in their fleet's behavior, the room filled with quiet arguments. Some said the humans had developed detection technology illegally. Some insisted Earth must have been helped by another species. Others believed it was pure luck. But one thing they all agreed on: the mission was no longer going as planned. In that moment, regret began to surface. The Council had believed attacking Earth early would prevent a bigger conflict in the future. But they had never expected Earth to respond this quickly or this effectively. Their assumption had always been that humans were unpredictable in small ways, but manageable in the larger picture. They were wrong. Back near Earth, the human fleet continued its strategic movements. Every time the aliens tried to adjust their angle, a human ship would block them. Every time the aliens tried to focus on the drones, more drones appeared from unexpected directions. Every attempt the intruders made to regain control ended with another disruption. Inside Earth's main command chamber, the atmosphere changed again. The earlier fear had faded. Now there was something else: quiet confidence. Humanity was still cautious, still alert, still aware that anything could happen, but the fear of the unknown had turned into determination. The first few moments of the battle had shown something important. The enemy was not invincible, not unstoppable, not all-knowing. The enemy was just another group that had made bad assumptions about Earth. Several human commanders leaned forward as new data appeared on the screens. The alien fleet's energy patterns were changing. They were no longer preparing for a simple disabling strike. They were shifting to defensive measures. This shift told humanity everything they needed to know. The alien fleet was shaken. This realization spread through Earth's teams like a spark of hope. They still didn't know who the intruders were, or why they had come, but at least they now knew that humanity had not been outmatched. For the first time, they could say with confidence that Earth had a fighting chance. The council officers inside the alien-led ship tried to send new orders to their fleet. But the problem was simple. The human response was unpredictable. Every time the aliens tried to stabilize their position, the humans changed theirs. Every time the aliens tried to regroup, the humans pushed them out of alignment. It was like trying to hold water in their hands. Every attempt to control the situation slipped away. Some alien officers argued that they should retreat and rethink their strategy. Others argued they should attack with full strength before Earth gained even more control. The disagreement split the council members back at their headquarters as well. They had never imagined that their first mistake would snowball into something so serious. Meanwhile, on Earth, human leaders studied the alien fleet's confusion. They didn't celebrate, they didn't relax, and they didn't boast. They only prepared for the next step. Humanity didn't underestimate danger. They had learned over centuries that even a cornered opponent could be deadly. So they continued to coordinate carefully, adjusting positions, preparing countermeasures, and making sure Earth stayed protected from every angle. While the alien fleet struggled, Earth sent out a quiet internal alert. Teams specializing in interstellar communication, psychology, and diplomacy gathered in separate rooms. They studied real-time footage, hoping to interpret the enemy's intentions. Their goal wasn't to escalate the fight. Humanity didn't want a war. Their goal was to understand why this attack had happened in the first place. Some experts believed the intruders had misjudged Earth's strength. Others believed the aliens feared humanity's rapid technological growth. A few wondered if the aliens simply didn't understand humans at all. But no theory was certain, and that uncertainty bothered Earth almost as much as the approaching threat. Still, for now, there was only one truth. The alien fleet's plan was failing before their eyes. The council ships began sending frantic internal signals to each other, adjusting shields and trying to form new defensive patterns. But even with their experience, the situation was slipping away. Their own miscalculations were becoming heavier than any maneuver Earth made. Far above Earth's surface, the human fleet continued tightening its formation. They didn't rush in blindly. They didn't launch a reckless attack. They simply controlled the battlefield. And in doing so, they achieved something important. They forced the alien fleet to react instead of act. This shift in power was subtle, but massive. For the first time since entering the solar system, the alien fleet was no longer deciding the pace of the encounter. Humanity was. The council officers, now visibly stressed, watched as Earth's fleet pushed their forces further from their original formation. Their faces, once confident, now carried a silent question. Had they made a terrible mistake? That question grew stronger as the battle continued. Signals from the outer edges of their fleet showed something alarming. Some ships had taken minor system failures from Earth's earlier interference drones. Nothing destructive, but enough to cause concern. For a mission that was supposed to be smooth and simple, even small failures were unacceptable. Back in the council headquarters, arguments turned into fear. If this mission continued to spiral downward, the consequences would be severe. They had not prepared for an extended conflict. They had not prepared for a unified human response. And they had not prepared for the possibility of Earth striking back. Across Earth's command centers, experts observed these signs and understood what they meant. The alien fleet was second-guessing its decisions. They were hesitating. And hesitation is one of humanity's strongest advantages in any confrontation. In that moment, the truth became clear to both sides. The aliens had expected to scare Earth into submission. Instead, they had awakened a force they did not understand. Earth's counterattack hadn't even begun fully, yet the Council was already questioning the entire mission. Their fear grew quietly, hidden behind their pride. But inside every ship, every command panel, and every officer's thoughts, the same regret began forming. They should never have struck Earth. They should never have underestimated humans. And they should never have believed this mission would be easy. The galaxy was about to learn just how costly that mistake would be. Begins with Earth realizing that the alien fleet was no longer acting as one controlled unit. Confusion and hesitation had set in across their formation, and the humans could see it clearly on their sensors. For the first time, it became possible to anticipate the alien fleet's movements before they even tried to act. This gave humanity an incredible advantage, but it also came with responsibility. Every move had to be calculated, precise, and controlled, because one mistake could give the intruders a chance to regain the initiative. Inside Earth's main command center, leaders monitored every screen, every data point, every sensor reading. Analysts interpreted patterns, predicting where the alien ships would try to move next. The human fleet was ready, but the humans were not blind to the fact that the enemy still possessed advanced technology that could cause massive damage. Caution remained, but it was now paired with confidence. Humanity had been underestimated, and that mistake was about to become apparent to the galaxy. Earth had waited for the aliens to reveal their intentions through communication or action. Neither came. The silence of the alien fleet was deafening, yet it gave the humans clarity. Without words, the intentions of the intruders were revealed through their behavior. They were not explorers. They were not diplomats. They were aggressors. And humanity would not ignore aggression. For centuries, humans had learned to protect what was theirs, to defend home and family, to rise in moments of threat. That instinct was deeply embedded in their strategy, and now it guided every decision. Orders moved rapidly across Earth's unified command network. Orbital defenses adjusted their positions. Human ships repositioned in layered formations to cover every angle. Drones, unmanned but highly intelligent, moved in ways that the alien fleet could not predict. Every defensive measure was paired with an offensive possibility, a silent threat designed to make the intruders hesitate even further. The humans had learned long ago that intimidation without violence can be just as powerful as an attack. And they were about to demonstrate it. The alien fleet, already shaken, began to notice that their control over the situation was slipping. Small failures caused by human countermeasures started multiplying. One ship lost partial communication with its formation. Another had to divert energy to compensate for a minor shield imbalance caused by interference drones. These were minor events individually, but together they told a larger story. Earth was capable, Earth was prepared, and Earth would fight back if necessary. The aliens did not fully understand it yet, but they could feel it. As the alien fleet scrambled to respond, Earth made its next move. Not an attack, but a demonstration. A coordinated series of maneuvers by human ships sent a clear message. Earth was united, Earth was ready, and Earth could control the battlefield. Ships moved in synchronized patterns that were both defensive and threatening, showing the intruders that any misstep could be costly. The humans were not reckless, but they were assertive. They communicated through action, proving without words that they would not surrender. Inside the alien command ship, officers began to argue. Some suggested retreating immediately, citing the unexpected skill and precision of the human fleet. Others insisted on pushing forward, believing that hesitation would signal weakness. But the more they argued, the slower their responses became. They were reacting to humans, not leading the engagement. And that was the moment Earth had hoped for, to shift the initiative away from the aggressors and into their own hands. Meanwhile, back on Earth, humanity prepared for a possibility that few people had ever considered, sending a clear warning to the galaxy. They understood that this conflict was not just about the intruders. It was about making sure other civilizations understood the consequences of underestimating humanity. The message was simple but powerful. Strike Earth and face the consequences. Humanity will respond, and we will not wait. This message was not broadcast recklessly. It was calculated, delivered through secure interstellar channels, designed to reach those who might be observing without escalating the conflict further. It was a demonstration of both strength and caution. Humans were making it clear that they were not aggressors, but they were fully capable of defending themselves. And in the first reactions, the message had its intended effect. Within hours, minor transmissions began to appear from distant observers, curious, cautious, and respectful. Earth had announced itself as a force not to be underestimated. At the same time, Earth's tactical units continued to advance their positions. They did not attack aggressively, but they did not remain passive either. Human ships created controlled pressure on the alien formation, forcing them to adjust, slow down, and reevaluate. Every movement was deliberate, every position calculated to maximize control without initiating full conflict. It was a delicate balance, and humanity managed it with precision. Their actions showed intelligence, coordination, and the ability to think multiple steps ahead traits the alien fleet had failed to anticipate. As the alien fleet struggled, Earth's experts turned their attention to analyzing the ship's systems. Using observational data gathered from a distance, analysts predicted vulnerabilities in the enemy's formation, not to exploit them immediately, but to understand their potential. Knowledge was power, and humans were methodical in gaining it. They had learned from history that preparation and understanding often determine the outcome more than force alone. This insight gave Earth the advantage of patience, a rare but potent weapon. The alien fleet, already disoriented, began making small errors. Some ships collided slightly during maneuvers, others misaligned energy fields, and a few miscalculated distances. These mistakes were minor in isolation, but they revealed a critical point. The Council had underestimated humanity's ability to respond. What they thought would be a quick mission of control had turned into a struggle for balance. And for the first time, fear began to creep into the ranks of the intruders. Fear that they had misjudged an entire planet. Back on Earth, leaders monitored this development carefully. There was no celebration, no boastful remarks. Humanity did not underestimate the risks. They understood that the intruders could still recover and launch a devastating attack. But there was pride in knowing that their planet's defenses, technology, and coordination had caused the first ripple of hesitation among the aggressors. For a species that had been underestimated for centuries, this was a quiet, powerful victory. In those hours, Earth also realized the importance of unity. Every nation, every agency, every expert had contributed to the planet's preparation and response. Communication networks had functioned flawlessly. Data had been shared openly. Decisions had been made collectively. The success of this countermeasure was not due to one person, one machine, or one unit. It was humanity acting as a single, coordinated force. That realization created a new confidence that had nothing to do with technology. It had to do with the human spirit, resourceful, determined, and united in the face of danger. As the alien fleet began to falter, Earth sent a subtle yet unmistakable signal. Retreat if you value your fleet. This was not a threat made in anger. It was a clear warning, backed by the demonstration of control humanity had already shown. For the first time, the alien officers had to weigh the possibility that continuing the mission could lead to real losses. Their confidence had been shattered by something they had not anticipated: the human will to protect their home, the ability to adapt, and the intelligence to act together in a crisis. The message had the intended effect. Some ships began to pull back slightly, testing the waters, while others maintained position, unsure of whether to advance or retreat. Confusion reigned among the Council fleet. They had believed Earth would react predictably. Instead, they faced a planet that thought differently, moved differently, and operated with a determination that could not be calculated easily. In the control centers on Earth, experts studied these responses carefully. They didn't attack. They didn't push further than necessary. Humanity had already achieved what it needed, demonstrating capability, creating hesitation, and sending a warning to the galaxy. The alien fleet could no longer act as confidently as they had when the mission began. The initiative had shifted completely. For the first time, Earth understood a simple truth. Sometimes victory is not about destruction. It is about control, precision, and the courage to act when others expect you to hesitate. Humanity had proven this truth not through reckless aggression, but through careful, coordinated, and intelligent response. And in doing so, they had shown the galaxy a force that could not be ignored. Even in the silence that followed the initial exchanges, Earth remained vigilant. Every ship, every platform, every sensor continued to monitor, ready to respond. Humanity had learned long ago that true security comes not from assuming peace, but from preparing for the unexpected. And now, having demonstrated their strength and unity, Earth was more prepared than ever. The alien fleet, shaken and cautious, had no choice but to reconsider its mission. The initial attack had failed to produce the intended effect. Confidence had been replaced with uncertainty. Plans that had seemed flawless were now in question. The Council had misjudged a single planet, a single species, and in doing so, had revealed the limits of their own understanding. Earth's lead begins in the quiet aftermath of the initial confrontation. The alien fleet, once confident and composed, now hovered in uncertainty. Their movements were cautious, slow, as if each officer feared making a mistake. They had entered Earth's space expecting an easy mission, perhaps a warning or a small demonstration of power. Instead, they had been met with something far beyond their expectations: a united planet, ready, prepared, and unwavering. Inside Earth's command centers, there was no celebration yet. Humanity understood the stakes. One mistake could still turn the situation around. But there was a sense of quiet relief and pride. They had done the impossible. They had faced an advanced, organized fleet from another world and forced it to hesitate. Humanity had acted together, across every nation and discipline, to show the galaxy that Earth could not be underestimated. And now, the task was to ensure that the lesson was remembered. The alien fleet began to retreat slowly, reorganizing in the depths of space. Some ships pulled back entirely. Others hovered at a distance, scanning, calculating, trying to regain control. Their mission had failed, and their confidence had been broken. Officers inside the alien command ships whispered urgently, debating what to do next. Some called for a full retreat, arguing that continuing the mission could risk irreversible losses. Others hesitated, unwilling to admit that they had misjudged humanity. Back on Earth, analysts observed these debates with keen interest. Even without hearing the alien communications directly, the changes in ship movement, energy patterns, and formation gave a clear picture. The intruders were unsure. They were reconsidering everything they thought they knew about this planet and its people. Humanity had not just survived the encounter. They had forced their opponents to rethink their entire strategy. At the same time, Earth's leadership decided to issue a formal, clear warning to the alien fleet. This was not an act of aggression, but a statement of responsibility and strength. Through carefully coordinated transmissions, humanity sent the same simple message across multiple channels. Earth is united. Earth is prepared. Any attack on our world will be met with full resistance. We hope for peace, but we will defend ourselves. The message was calm, direct, and firm. It carried the weight of experience, of careful preparation, and of unity. The humans did not boast. They did not threaten beyond the truth. They were merely telling the galaxy that Earth could not be pushed around, underestimated, or ignored. The transmission reached not only the alien fleet, but also distant observers, other civilizations watching the conflict unfold. The impact was immediate. Some distant species began to reconsider their assumptions about humans. Earth had announced itself as a serious, capable player in the interstellar community. Meanwhile, the alien fleet's retreat continued. Ships that had once moved with arrogance now moved with caution, testing the limits of Earth's defenses, ensuring that any sudden move would not leave them exposed. The council officers were forced to accept a harsh reality. Humanity was not the weak, reckless species they had assumed. Humans could plan, adapt, and respond faster than they had anticipated. More than that, humans had acted with clarity and precision, showing a level of coordination that few in the galaxy could match. Inside Earth's command centers, scientists, strategists, and military leaders studied every aspect of the encounter. They did not see themselves as invincible. They did not underestimate the aliens. Instead, they used this moment to learn, to observe, and to prepare for any future interaction. Every pattern, every behavior, every small misstep by the aliens was recorded and analyzed. Earth had turned an encounter that could have been catastrophic into a massive intelligence-gathering operation. Civilians, still largely unaware of the danger that had passed above them, went about their lives. Only a few knew the full story. Humanity had protected the planet without chaos, without panic, and without unnecessary destruction. The unity of nations, the expertise of scientists, and the courage of defense forces had combined to create a shield no enemy could easily penetrate. For the first time in history, Earth had truly proven that it was a single, resilient entity. As hours turned into days, the alien fleet continued its cautious withdrawal. They had learned an important lesson. Underestimating humans could be fatal. Their own reports would now reflect this reality, and council leaders, far from Earth, began internal debates that shook their authority. Some admitted the original decision to strike had been reckless. Others tried to rationalize it, but the hesitation and fear that humans had forced into their fleet would remain a lasting scar on their judgment. Meanwhile, Earth did not relax. The planet remained on high alert, with all systems operating as if the alien threat could return at any moment. Humans had learned that survival requires constant vigilance, planning, and adaptation. But there was also a new confidence, a quiet knowledge that no force, however advanced, could take Earth by surprise again without facing a united and intelligent response. The lessons from this encounter began to spread quickly across human networks. Engineers refined defensive technologies. Military strategists updated plans based on what they had observed. Diplomats and communication experts studied the transmissions carefully, preparing for a galaxy that would now approach humanity with caution. Humanity had not only survived, they had established a reputation that would ripple through the stars. For the alien fleet, the retreat was more than physical. It was psychological. Officers were forced to acknowledge that their assumptions had been wrong. They had believed that fear and speed alone could control a species. But humans had proven that adaptability, unity, and resolve could overcome even superior technology. This knowledge would stay with the fleet for years, perhaps decades, affecting future decisions about Earth. Back on Earth, leadership reflected on what had been accomplished. The planet had been threatened, yet it had responded without panic, without chaos, and without allowing internal divisions to undermine its defense. Every nation had contributed to the success. Every scientist, pilot, and officer had played a role. And most importantly, humanity had acted not out of blind aggression, but out of responsibility to protect home and people. As the alien fleet disappeared into the depths of space, Earth's command centers gradually reduced alert levels, but not completely. Humans knew that the galaxy was vast, and new challenges could arise at any time. What mattered now was that Earth had proven its strength, intelligence, and unity. It had survived a direct threat from a far more advanced power, and it had done so while preserving life, knowledge, and the hope of peace. Reports from the encounter began to circulate quietly across interstellar networks. Other civilizations began to take note of Earth's actions. The story of humanity's response spread not as a tale of reckless war, but as a demonstration of discipline, strategy, and resilience. Earth had made a statement to the galaxy. It would not bow to threats, it would not be underestimated, and it would protect its people at all costs. Inside Earth's remaining command centers, humans began to plan for the future. They improved communication systems, strengthened defenses, and expanded research into technologies that had proven effective during the encounter. But beyond technology, there was a deeper understanding that unity and shared purpose were just as powerful as any weapon. Humanity had learned that survival in the galaxy depends on collaboration, intelligence, and the courage to act decisively when needed. The alien fleet would carry the memory of this encounter back to its council. Officers would tell stories of a species that refused to yield, that adapted instantly, and that acted with precision and wisdom. The council would have to reconsider how it interacted with Earth in the future. Fear, respect, and caution would now shape every decision regarding humanity. On Earth, life slowly returned to normal. People continued their daily routines, largely unaware that a historic interstellar encounter had occurred above their heads. Yet the humans who had participated in the defense knew something profound. They had faced the unknown and had prevailed. They had shown that even a planet, not yet fully understood by the galaxy, could rise as a united, intelligent, and unstoppable force. And for generations to come, every council member and every alien officer who had witnessed the encounter would remember the day they underestimated Earth. They would remember the planet that had not only survived, but had asserted its presence in the galaxy. Humanity had made a lasting impression, one that would shape the relationships, strategies, and caution of civilizations across the stars. In the end, Earth's survival was not just about technology or strategy. It was about human spirit, unity, and the courage to protect what mattered most. It was about standing together when the odds seemed overwhelming. It was about turning fear into preparation, uncertainty into strategy, and danger into a lesson for the galaxy. The alien fleet had retreated. The council had learned a humbling truth, and humanity had risen, proving once and for all that Earth would never be underestimated again. The stars had witnessed it, and the galaxy would remember it. The day Earth fought back, the day humans refused to bow, and the day they showed that survival, intelligence, and unity could defeat even the most confident aggressor. Earth had defended itself, not with recklessness, but with intelligence, coordination, and